Hi, my name's Katie McConnell, and I am here to tell you about The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, the manga edition by Sexton in Hyeondo Park. But first, I'd like to tell you that conventionally, Mark Twain's novel is known for being a book of great literary realism, which is, in other words, accurate depiction. It's also known for being picturesque, which means that the character is placed at the center of the plot. It's known for local color, which means that it uses dialects specific to the region in order to accurately depict the story. It's full of symbolism and also shows great character growth. In my presentation of Sexton and Park's manga edition of Huckleberry Finn, I have adapted it as The Adventures of Huck the Duck. It is loosely based on the manga edition of Mark Twain's Huckleberry Finn by Sexton in Hyeondo Park, with an emphasis on the word loosely. It is adapted and illustrated by myself, Katie McConnell. Huckleberry Finn begins as Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn have come into a large amount of money. Huckleberry Finn is then adopted by the widow Douglas, who is a very proper woman who also teaches Jim the ways of his life that would help him to become a gentleman in society. Well, Huck has a hard time adapting to this change, and one night Huck meets up with Tom and they sneak out and scare Jim, who is the widow Douglas's slave. Well, when they return, Huck has gone back to his room in the widow Douglas's house, and his father, Pap, is in his room. Pap is a very destructive character. He's kind of the town drunk and has always been just not involved in Huck's life. So after Pap has threatened Huck because Pap wants Huck's money, the next day Pap ends up kidnapping Huckleberry Finn. And Huck is unfortunately left in Pap's horrible house with horrible conditions, little to eat or drink for several days, and Huck takes this opportunity to escape Pap's house by faking his own death. And at this time, Huck goes to the river and runs into Jim, and they decide to build a raft and get on the river in order to find Jim his freedom. They then find a house on the river which contains a dead body, and this dead body, we don't know at the time, but is pretty significant to the story, and Jim will not let Huck see the dead body as a means of protecting him. Huck then dresses up like a girl and tries to get information on who could be looking for Jim, because it is theorized that Jim is the person that killed Huck. So they get back on the river and they start going down it when there's a really bad storm, and they get separated, and Huck at this opportunity wonders whether or not he should return to town and turn in Jim. And he does this for potentially moral reasons, as his character is beginning to develop and question what is right and wrong. And at this time, Huck runs into the Grangerfords and the Shepherdsons, who are in a lifelong feud and no one really knows why. My granddaddy says that your granddaddy's a bad egg. Well, I'm gonna beat you so hard that your grandchildren's grandchildren are gonna be scrambled eggs. Well, you're ugly. So after this ridiculous encounter, Huck returns to the Shepherdsons' home and discovers that no one's there because the younger members of the two families have gone off to elope. And this is similar to the whole Romeo and Juliet scenario, as the families are feuding and the two lovers go off to begin their lives. At this time, Jim and Huck run into the King and the Duke, who are the carnivalesque characters of the story, and work as the comedic relief as well. They end up working together in order to fraud people, and in doing this, they try and continue to get Jim to his freedom. The King and the Duke create a wanted poster covering for Jim. However, some people find the poster and capture Jim. And Huck then poses as Tom Sawyer in order to get information about Jim. At this time, Huck runs into the real Tom Sawyer, and they break Jim out. They're chased down. Huck is shot in the leg and is taken to the doctor and is eventually found by Aunt Polly. Jim is then set free, and they discover that Pap is the dead body and is no longer a problem for Huck Finn. Now, it is at this time that I'd like to point out that there are a lot of really confusing things about the story. And Roger Sabine would inform us that everything in a comic has to work. Words, pictures, and timing, or else it fails. And while Sexton and Park made a really good point of illustrating the narrative and using local color and things that are true to Mark Twain's story, being that they took parts out in order to condense the story, it made it very confusing for someone that has already read the story to understand it. And as a potential student who's never read the story before, they would be very confused. However, they have done some really good things. Sabine also says that comics are considered to be a language, and as stated before, they use a lot of local color within the graphic narrative, and just in that fact, they are teaching readers about a different form of language, and in using the manga edition, they are making that language and the language of comics much more attainable to young readers. Leo Baxendale also says that comedy is a structure, a way of thinking, a way in particular of synthesizing the unlikely, the unexpected. And it is here that I would like to point out one of my favorite points, and that is that Sexton and Park have taken the opportunity of marrying the idea of graphic narratives to classic literature, which is something that I look forward to introducing students of my own with, to show them that comedy can be used as a form of learning, and that classic literature can be fun and can be attainable. Sabine also says that by challenging the notion that strips always had to be funny, these examples open the way for more melodramatic fare. And it is in their use of the graphic narrative and the manga edition of Huckleberry Finn that they have, even in taking out parts of the classic novel, that they have really helped students to engage in literature that they may any other form ignore. I hope that you have enjoyed my perception of the manga edition of The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, also known as The Adventures of Huck the Duck. The end.